What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Right now, I just wanted to take a second to talk about The Last of Us factions and what we could have potentially had with the multiplayer mode in The Last of Us Part 2. But before I get into that, make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe to this account for daily The Last of Us content because we're going kind of ham on those vids right now. I don't know if it's just because Season 2 has been dropped. I've been on a super The Last of Us hyperfixation at the moment. I just got finished playing Part 1 in the first game. Right now, I've been working my way through the second game story mode for the first time on live stream. Ultimately, I've been spending a lot of hours in The Last of Us universe, and I feel like The Last of Us Part 2 was definitely overhated, but rightfully so at the time. Because you gotta remember, at the time this came out, there was no return mode, so it did literally just drop with the story mode. And this was already after like 6 years of us waiting for the release of the game after the release of The Last of Us Part 1, approaching more like 7 years to be honest. There was a huge gap in between the two. And the first game has The Last of Us factions, which in my personal opinion is the best multiplayer mode of all time that has ever been created or conceived of, in my personal opinion at least. But yeah, it took a long time for this to actually come out, so you would think that at the very least they would have dropped it with the factions mode already in it, but they did not choose to do that because instead they were opting to make a super ambitious massive multiplayer online experience that was kind of like Fortnite or something along the lines of Warzone, but set in the universe of The Last of Us. And I honestly think it would have been the best multiplayer game that we ever got. But if you recall the news from a few years ago, Naughty Dog ended up canceling this entire, and when I say canceled, I don't mean delayed, I mean it's literally not even coming out anymore, because they've instead chosen to spend all their time focusing on this intergalactic game, which is supposed to be their new story mode project. And I honestly am already not a fan of it, solely because of the fact that its existence literally killed The Last of Us fact. And in case you can't tell, I'm a super The Last of Us fanboy. It is definitely one of the games that I consider to be the greatest game of all time. In fact, the only game that I would say compares to the greatness of The Last of Us is Red Dead Redemption 2, which means that there is pretty much no other game in it that compares to at least The Last of Us Part 1. I was definitely disappointed how Naughty Dog chose to handle the multiplayer release, because they definitely did not respect all of the fans of factions. And there are thousands of people who still to this day log on to factions every single day in order to experience it, and I'm not gonna lie to you, there's definitely a reason why. It's very fun, and not only is it fun, it is a very unique multiplayer experience that cannot be replicated today. But yeah, while some people might argue that games like Fortnite and Warzone would take the majority of player base over The Last of Us multiplayer, I argue that this game would have been good enough to seal away some of their fan base. But while it would have been peak, it's definitely never gonna happen, or at the very least it's not gonna happen at least 5 years to a decade from now, so there's really no point in getting overworked about it. But I honestly feel like if this was included in the base release of The Last of Us Part 2, a lot of people would have considered this to be the greatest game of all time during its release. I feel like it's always going to have a bad taste in its mouth when people mention it, because of the fact that everyone hated it during the time that it came out. The main reason for that, outside of the story, was the lack of replayability because of how shitty the story was. The lack of no return at the time. Even though no return is a great game mode, and I feel like it definitely adds a lot of playtime for me to this game, and it's definitely a wonderful addition that I'm glad they added in The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Multiplayer definitely would do a lot better in terms of the numbers of people supporting this game. I definitely feel like they should add it, but that's just my thought. Definitely let me know how you feel about it in the comments. Leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for notifications on so you get notified the next time I upload. Thank you for watching. I love and appreciate you all. I'm God signing off.
I come in clutch like a genie. Don't talk unless you need me. You talk too much, you need it. All of my bitches look like models, she in love with me. When we link, it's flashing lights and cameras, got a blam.